Hello everyone, my name is Anish Sharma and you are watching Kubernetes web series. Today we are going to cover one interesting topic, that is what is replica set. We'll cover the below points. First one is what is replica set. As I mentioned in my previous topic, that is replication controller, where I had informed you that we have less options available with replication controller. Thus, more options are added in the replica set binaries. Second is understand the YAML file fields. Again, there we need to understand more options in the YAML file fields. How to create YAML file from replica set. How to create YAML file for replica set. We can create the YAML file our own. How, that we will discuss on this topic. How to create replica set from YAML file. How to check the replica set, and then how to delete the replica set. When to use a replica set. In the last we will do lab. So let's move to our first topic, that is what is replica set. In previous pod video we had covered that what is pod and how to create it. Let's suppose if we want to create three identical pods, and Kubernetes API should manage and monitor these pods. For this reason Kubernetes offered replica set functionality. A replica set purpose is to maintain a stable set of replica pods running at any given time. As such, it is often used to guarantee the availability of specified number of identical pods. In short, we could say that if we create a pod through replica set and any pod goes down, then our replica set will automatically create a new pod for us. Same option we have with replication controller. Replica set is also a part of controller, like replication controller. I had already explained the functionality of controller. If you have not watched this video, then you can check the description for this link. Now let's drill down our second topic, that is understand the field in YAML file. In YAML file, we have four main parts, that is API version, kind, metadata and specs. In the API version, we mentioned which API version we are using for replica set. We should use apps/v1. No need to remember this value. You may find it in the official documentation of Kubernetes. In kind section, we specify what resources we are going to create. Here we specified replica set. Here R and S is capital. Please bear in mind. In the metadata, we generally add the name of the resources and some other useful information like labels and namespaces. In specs, we add all the information such as replica set, pod, container. I download this YAML file from kubernetes.io website and I create the replica set. With the help of this YAML file, we will create the replica set, and this replica set will create pods. What is the name of this replica set is frontend. While giving the name, we must adhere the DNS subdomain, that is contain no more than 253 characters, contain only lowercase alphanumeric characters, hyphen or dot. Start with alphanumeric character and end with alphanumeric character. If you do not follow this instruction, you will definitely observe an error message. Replica equal to 3, it means that this replica set will create three identical pods. In the kind section, we have mentioned replica set. This replica set has its own label, that is tr equal to frontend. In the spec section, we have selector field. This will instruct the replica set to look for labels which are defined under match labels. For the label is tr equal to frontend. In simple word, we can say that replica set will select the pods with this label. Under template, we have metadata, and beneath this we have again labels. This label is for pod. Replica set will create the pod with this label. In the cluster, if any pod running with this label tr equal to frontend, it will add in its list. So both value should be equal, then only these pod will be selected by replica set. So here replicas, first we need to create a replica set, and we instruct our replica set to look for tr equal to frontend label and then create a pod and attach the label tier equal to frontend so that when this pod will create, it will acquire these pods. How to create YAML file for replica set. Understand the YAML file fields here. So we have simple YAML file. Let's explore it. First, we need to create a syntax for YAML file, that is AKMS. API version, kind, metadata, and specs. API version is app v1, kind is replica set. In the metadata part, we define the name by which we can refer to this replica set. It means giving a name to our replica set. We also define a number of labels through which we can identify it. In specs, we mention the identical ports that need to be we mention the identical ports that need to run under the control of this replica set. Further, we instruct our replica set to acquire the pod which has the label tier equal to frontend. So here we have the pod YAML file. So we just add all these values except this. So the first section is for replica set. The second section we can further divide that this section is for pod, and inside this section we have container section. So I hope now you understand the fields in YAML file and how we can create the replica set YAML file by our own if we have the pod YAML file. So how to create replica set from YAML file? First, I'm going to download the YAML file directly from Kubernetes.io website. Here I used apply option in order to create the replica set. You may also use create option instead of that. No worries. We can execute the command kubectl get replica sets or rs short form for replica set. Name of the replica set is frontend. Desired is 3. This is what our controller manager will check. If we observe one pod less, then it will create it automatically. Current is 3. Ready is 3. Now we can check the running pod by executing the command kubectl get pods. All the pods are running and you can see that replica set gave the name of pods by itself. Naming convention is its own replica set name followed by hyphen and then 5 character mixed with alphabet and numerics. Now we understand that how to create replica set. Next topic is what happened when we delete one pod from RC. In the previous slide, we created one replica set named frontend and 3 pods are running. We can also execute the command kubectl get pod. If one pod destroyed, then replica set will auto create a new pod. Let me delete the last pod from the list. Command would be kubectl delete pod and then pod name. From the message, it is confirmed that this pod is deleted. Again, if we execute this command kubectl get pods, and now a new pod is created by replica set. The new name is also given by the replica set. Therefore, we can say that if one pod get deleted, it will get the new pod created by replica set, and the name, it would be a new name and new IP address is assigned to this pod probably. Next topic is how to find more information of replica set. How to check the replica set. Here we can execute the command kubectl describe rs slash frontend. The first thing is the name. The second is label. The third one is replica. How many identical pod this replica set is created. The next would be pod templates. Label equal to tier frontend. What image we have used for this pod. And here What are the current running pods? Next topic is how to delete the replica set. The commands are very straightforward. kubectl delete replica set and then replica set name. How to verify if our replica set is deleted and its pods. So we can execute the command kubectl get rs. Rs is the short form of replica set. We can also execute the command kubectl get pod to see if any pods are running which are managed and controlled by this replica set. Next topic is when to use a replica set. A replica set ensures that a specific number of pods replicas are running at any given time. Update to pod or upgrade to container is not possible. This actually means that you may never need to manipulate a replica set objects. If you want to update the container, then it is recommended to use deployment instead of replica set. Nowadays, no one is using replica set. However, in order to understand the deployment topic, it is worth to learn what is replica set. Beside this, in the interview, people are generally asking this topic. So let's jump into our lab section that is very interesting and where we will play with some commands. I have already uploaded the lab questions on my GitHub page. So let me go inside the Kubernetes folder here and then click on 10 replica set. The PPT is already uploaded here. If you want to download it, you can use this. But for the lab purpose, you need to click on lab.md file and then follow the lab. So the first one is how to create replica set from YAML file. If you click in this button, it will copy the command. How to check the replica set. Copy this command kubectl get replica set. As you can see here that the name is frontend, desired is 3, current is 3 and ready is 3. So all my 3 ports are ready. I can use the short form of replica set that is rs. How to check the pods? I can execute kubectl get pod where it says that frontend followed by hyphen and then 5 character. How to delete the replica set pods? Here I need to mention one pod name here. Let me select the last one, Z8. If I execute this command again, I will observe a new pod that is 9fsqc. How to delete the replica set? The command is very simple. kubectl delete replica set and then replica set name. Let me clear the window here and press enter. How I can check if this replica set is deleted or not? kubectl get rs. If I execute the command kubectl get pods, again I will observe no resources found. If one pod is already running with the same label, what will happen? Let me create a new pod with the name of RC pod, and here I'm using the same label, that is tier equal to frontend. Copy this command and now execute it. Let me check if this pod is created and hyphen hyphen show label. This time I'm using this. With the help of this option, I can see the label of pod. Now, if I again execute the same command to create the replica set, and if I check the how many replicas are there, identical ports, this replica set is managing, it's 3. So it means that this replica set should create 3 ports. Let me execute this command here. Now you can observe that the third pod is not showing this naming convention. Why? Because this pod is already created with this tier equal to front end labels. What happened here? This replica set acquired this pod. And if I'm going to execute new pod with this same label, it will not allowing me. It will delete the pod. Let me clear the screen here, and now you can see here that the second pod is not created here. This time I used the name RC pod 2, but this pod is not showing here. Why? Because my RC delete this pod. It says that I should manage only 3 pods. From this, I believe that you get to know that before creating the replica set, I need to check the labels of pods. If it's already there, then we should use the different labels here. If you like this video, please share and subscribe to my channel and press the bell icon. Thank you very much. Bye bye.